All right, guys, Freddie Fabricate. We're back here with part 2 of the 2.2 kilowatt spindle conversion. Ran into a lot of problems, guys. You can see here, I got the water cooling lines all hooked up. Some of it's temporary, some is permanent. I tried using this little Chinese cheap junk water pump made from Man KN. Do not use these guys. They're absolutely terrible. The threads all stripped out on me. I had the thing mounted right up on here. I'm going to turn the camera around in a second. I'll give you guys a better view. But had this mounted up here. It does have a nice little reservoir so I could see the water, add a little bit of extra cooling, and I can tell if I have flow. But the thing lasted for like 5 minutes before it leaked all over my CNC machine. So anyway, I'm going to flip the camera around and tell you guys what I did for now. All right, so I found this old fuel pump I had. It's about 30 gallons per minute. I read some stuff online that's probably on the low end of what you want. Those pond pumps seem to be like 300 gallons per minute. But they mostly pump over long distances and down into a bucket. This is a closed loop system. I probably explained it before, but I have the two PC radiators and fans. I did lose my little coolant bottle that added a little extra fluid, but I'm gonna see maybe down the line, I'll put like a catch can right here, and I might tap into this lower line right here and put a thermostat and a flow switch of some sort. But for now, I have a job I have to get done, so we're gonna leave it. My flow is pretty good. I just ran a set of alligator clips, had laying around. And what I'm doing, hopefully I can show you guys, just have a small battery on my bench from my lawnmower. It's a 12 volt system, so I just connect that. And then, hopefully you guys can see, I do have a little bit of air left in the system. Going to end up putting a T up here with some sort of little ball valve and a little fill. So I could probably bleed out the air that way. But at least for now, you can see the flow. It looks pretty good. Goes in and out of my spindle. So we're gonna call that done for now. I'm gonna shut off the camera and then show you guys what I'm doing on the VFD side. All right, I just about got the VFD control box done. Here's my wiring coming in from the spindle. Put a little ferrite thingy on here. I'm going to start putting those and put some those little ferrite cylinder things. But for now, I'm just running. I got the EMI filter. I got a nice little terminal block right here. This is all my line voltage. I'm like 247 single phase. Hopefully I don't have a problem with anything. I got my ground bar in here. My 12 volt DC power supply powering the water pump and the two fans on the PC radiators. Just been spending tons of time, guys, doing all the connections. I got everything crimped, soldered, and shrink wrapped. Got all the connections down here, run to the fan. Got my fuses. I'm gonna change those out to 20 amps. I got everything pulled back to this ground bar, like I said, and then I'm gonna run one cable from the ground bar back out of the box down to my chassis, and then right here I got my two ground rods. I'm going to be drilling the floor right next to the table and driving these down. Hopefully I won't hit any rocks or have a problem. They're pointed. I'll get my either my sledge or my big rotary hammer, and I'll hammer those down into the ground, and then I'll bond the table. The other thing I'm going to be doing is the shielded cable. I have shielded cable for the 12 volt, and obviously this is shielded, double shielded with a drain. I'm going to be taking those two connections back to the ground bar also. Let me just show you the side here. I got toggle, double throw, double pole, or single pole, double throw, sorry. Which is 220, single phase, 247 single phase. Got my little 220 light. Tried to keep the whole box 247 single phase. I didn't want to have to deal with anything 110. And so far, it seems to be working out pretty good. Just about fit everything in here. The only thing, I don't have the 12-volt power supply fused going up to the table, what I just showed you, the water pump and whatnot. Water pump draws about 1 amp, I think I read, and those fans are probably almost nothing. So even if I put, a little 2 amp fuse, that should be good. But for now, like I said, I got to get through this job, so I'm just getting this running fast. The other thing I did, one little small thing, nothing crazy, is I just put a little plexiglass door so I could see the either the RPM or the hertz on the VFD. All right, babe. So, make a new wire, new plug. Had to add this switch, the original switch right here. It was nice. It was part of the handle in there, but that was blown out. Added this toggle switch right here, and the cap was missing on the back here. Who the hell knows where that ended up? This brush in here was completely demolished. I was able to pull it out and hand file it back to having a perfect little contour to rub against the armature, which is in here. And then I just put a little spring in there and some electric tape to hold pressure on it. And we'll see if she fires. Like brand new. And I actually did price out one of these used. They're $400. So this is definitely worth it. All right, guys. So next up is the 8-foot ground rod. I'm going to sink right next to the machine. Looks to be like, copper plated, steel core, something like that. So the one I ordered, it comes in 2 4-footers. Everything I've read online, they suggest 8-foot is the best. Then it comes with this coupling to go in the middle. Says it's 5/8. I'm going to measure it before we get started so I can make the hole in the floor big enough. Because once this is, hammered on there or however, I'm going to put it on and I'm going to assume soldered. I'll probably flux the inside of this, clean it up. Take this guy, flip it upside down and get the solder. I'll heat the bottom of this with the torch, put the solder on the top, and it'll run right down into it. I'm going to look online and see what guys do for that, but I don't see anything wrong with it being soldered. My next area of concern is, like I said, I'm going to drill the floor large enough so that this coupling should pass through. Should let the 1/2-inch rod go through nice and easy to start. Then once I hit this, if this is a little tight going through the concrete, I'm sure I could get it through, and then it should loosen up once it's down in the soil. The other idea I'm trying to come up with right now, I have this steel slug. This is pretty tight. I'm going to make up something for my hammer drill that it'll either go over this, and then I'll hammer it down, and then once I get that down, it'll go over this part, and I'll hammer that down. Or I'll just make this itself, a tight fit like this is. I'll machine it, I'll bore it out on my lathe, and then I'll just slide this down over, and then I'll bore this side. Then this side I'll leave flat, and as best I can. Remember, it doesn't have to spin, it's just hammering. So we don't need any precision here. I'm going to cut off, I have a broken hammer drill bit from my Bosch hammer drill. I'm going to cut the end off and just give it a nice weld on here, and then just use that to hammer down. I think that should be fine, just pushing on this. I'm going to make this nice and tight so that it won't be able to expand. If it does expand and then this gets stuck on there, I'm going to have a whole nother problem, but we'll see how it goes. So I got the center board out. Brought it about to here where my thumb is. And I'm gonna see how it fits. All right, that should be good. So in essence, it's gonna go like that, and the hammer drill is just gonna continuously hammer it down. My hammer drill fails on me, might be hitting this with a sledgehammer, but let's hope for the best. All right, I'm gonna be using this old Bosch hammer drill. Thing has definitely seen better days. It's a Bosch T32. Had this thing forever. The end cap for the brushes broke off on me. The switch that used to be in the handle stopped working, so had to rig up a toggle switch right here. And still works pretty good, believe it or not. I had to pull out one brush. The spring got fried on it for some weird reason. So it wasn't actually pushing the brush into the armature anymore. So of course I couldn't screw out the cap. It disintegrated on me. This side is good. The other side is where it fell apart. I don't know if you guys could see that. I was able to pull the brush out, and I just took a round file, or I took like a crescent-shaped file, and I just reshaped the end of the brush. The brush had kind of like cracked on the end, but it had a lot of material left on it. I've ordered 2 new brushes that are on their way, but for now, I'm hoping this will get me by. I put it back in. I added my own spring, and I just held it on with electric tape for now. When the new brushes come, I'll try to probably figure out something a little better, maybe a little piece of wood, and then the electric tape. So now, back to the project at hand. So here's the adapter I made to hammer down. I was just showing you guys. This little drill that I have here, concrete drill, the tip is all broken on it. So what I'm gonna do is cut it right here, and then I'm going to take that and just weld it to the end of this slug that I made. That'll go into the hammer drill, and then I'll hammer down the copper rod. The ground rod, I should call it. All right, buddy. So I got the hammer drill working again, as I just showed you. This is the adapter I made. Just put this chunk of steel in the lathe, bored it out. Here's the ground rod. Basically, it's just a top hat. It's a nice snug fit. This was an old drill I had that has the same splines as this hammer drill. I forget what the hell it is, but you can see all the different slots, all this bullshit. Anyway, the tip was bad on this, cut it off, just put it on, did a quick weld all the way around, nothing fancy. And then I'm gonna use the hammer drill. I'm gonna bore the hole in the ground, put the hammer drill on top of here, hammer this all the way down to the bottom. And then I have a brass coupling that's gonna go on here. I will braze or solder the brass coupling on, put the second piece on, hammer the second one down, and I'm done. All right, guys, the ground rod was a complete disaster. I started hammering it down. Everything was going great until I hit solid bedrock. I got it down about 18 inches, and the ground rod was so tight in there, I couldn't even pull it out with the hydraulic jack. I basically just had to cut it flush with the floor. I've been doing some research online. If you do hit rock, I had an idea that I was on top of bedrock here because I dug a French drain on the side of the house years ago, and it's kind of in line where we are now. So with that being said, my next plan of action, I had to cut it off as I showed you guys. I'm gonna fill that with some hydraulic cement. Hopefully I don't get any water coming up through the floor. If you do try to drill, like let's say I just use my hammer drill bits here, and I kept welding on extensions and drilling and drilling and drilling. I'll drill through the rock, but from everything I've read online, it's a really terrible ground. You should really be in soil, preferably wet soil, believe it or not. So my next idea, if you guys could see, I'm below ground here with my shop. If I look out the window, you could see the dirt right there. So, for what I've been reading online, as long as you're 30 inches down, you can put a ground rod horizontally. So, I'm basically going to hammer drill a hole through the cinder block, go out into the dirt, and then I'll hammer an 8-foot ground rod in that way. And then I'll just run like a 6-gauge cable, you know, to the chassis of the machine and run that to my ground. But for now, what I've done is I made up this heavy-duty strap here. It goes up to the bus bar, the ground bus bar in here. I've grounded just about everything. I got to connect this last chassis ground for the VFD, and then I got to connect the chassis ground for the DC power supply. And then I'm pretty much ready to start setting some parameters in the VFD. I'm going to power it up and try to walk you guys through that. But for now, I'm just, like I was saying, I grounded this to the chassis of the machine, and I'm using the ground that goes back to my main circuit breaker panel. I never had a problem in the past, but I never had a 247 volt single phase, 3-phase, I guess, once it gets to the spindle on this machine. So I'm not sure if that's going to create any more interference. Hopefully it'll work for now, and I could just get out my next batch of parts.